Well, these problems are relatively simple. So a curve is given, and you're asked to identify the amplitude, the value of k, and of course the shift. Okay, so let's start with the one which is over here, 43. All right, first of all, it's obvious that it's a sine. Okay, and it's obvious that the period, the amplitude is obvious that the amplitude is 4, sorry, not 1. Look, it 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 varies between 4 and -4. Now, if you look at the period is 2 pi, and that means that the value of k is, let me see for a second. The value of k is remember the formula that we had was period is equal to 2 pi over k, and if the period is 2 pi, k must be 1. Okay, and finally there's no shift, b is 0. So if I wanted to write this, the equation of that, it'll be 4 sine of 1 times x minus 0, which is a fancy way of writing 4 sine of x. Okay, let's go to the next one. I'm going to erase these. Okay. Now, you look at this one, 44, it's obvious that the amplitude is 2. When you look at the period, by the look of it, the period is pi. And remember, period was 2 pi over k. And this means that k is 1. K is 2. K is 2. Okay? And finally, there is no phase shift in cosine. It starts at the height of 2 and it goes to a height of 2 at the end of the period. So b is also 0. So if you wanted to write this thing, y would be equal to 2 cosine of 1, of 2, not 1, k times x minus 0 minus b, which means y equal to 2 cosine of 2x. That's this one. All right, let's clean this up. None of the problems in this particular group, in these 4 problems, have any phase. You can see that. But I think the ones after that, they will. Okay. So the next one. All right. Obviously, this is cosine. We're doing this. So A is 3 over 2. And period. If you look at it, it is 2 pi over 3. You can see that. Because each one of these is pi over 6. There is 4 of them. 4, 2 pi over 6, 2 pi over 3. And once again, b is 0. So it's going to be it's going to be 3 over 2 cosine of, by the way, this is 2 pi over k, right? In general. So k is 3. K is 3. So it's going to be 3 times x minus 0. Or simply 3 over 2 cosine of 3x. All right, so let's get rid of these. Go to the problem 46. Okay. Right. Problem number 46. A is 3. Period is 4 pi, which incidentally, remember, is 2 pi over k, right? Which means k is 1/2. K is 1/2. And again, there's no shift. So B is 0. So it is obvious that this is a sine. So 3 sine of 1/2 times x minus 0, or simply 3 sine x over 2. Okay, that takes care of these 4 problems. Let's move on to the next 2. I think the next 2 will involve a shift. See? Yes. Okay, so we're going to worry about 47. The amplitude is obviously 1/2. We are dealing with a cosine curve, but notice that it's inverted. In other words, cosine curve looks like this, right? It looks, if you draw the cosine curve, let's see. If you draw the cosine curve, let me erase this. If you draw the cosine curve, it looks like that. But what I have here is actually looks like this. Okay? So I will put a minus sign. We'll put a minus sign in front of that. We'll put a minus sign. Minus sign in front later at the end. Okay? Alright, so let's see. What else do we have here? Okay, so period. Period. You just look at it. The easiest way to do these things is the beginning point minus the end point will give you the period. Okay. So period is equal to the end point, 2 pi over 3, minus the beginning point, minus pi over 3, and this is going to be pi. Just look at that diagram, it's 3 pi over 3, which is pi. Okay, good. And the phase shift, B, is this much. So it's going to be minus pi over 3. This is the phase shift, okay? Phase shift, minus pi over 3. Not too many B's here. Okay, good. So let's go ahead and work it out. Let me erase the stuff that I don't want here. These things I don't want. And I'm going to write my answer as y equal to negative 1/2 cosine of k, and k is pi, times x minus pi over 3, which remember, minus pi over 3. Let's clean it up here. It's equal to minus 1/2 cosine of pi x. This is a parenthesis, not the 1. Plus pi over 3. You can always check some of these things. For example, I'm sorry, this is not k, this is the period. We gotta fix it. This is 2 pi over k, and k is equal to 2. So this is not a pi, this is a 2. Period is pi, but period is 2 pi over k, and therefore k is equal to 2. So let's check it. Let's actually check this thing. For example, what happens when I put x equal to minus pi over 3? Think about it. What happens in this expression when I put x equal to minus pi over 3? Well, I get cosine of 2 times 0. Cosine of 2 times 0 is cosine of 0. Cosine of 0 is 1, and you get minus 1/2. and that's exactly what you're supposed to get. At minus pi over 3, you should get a minus 1/2. Good. 3 more to go. Gotta be very careful with these things. And these are the kind of problems that I'm going to ask you to do, at least some of them, on the quiz and test, because these you cannot bring your calculator. You must have done it, and you must be arguing it properly, otherwise you can't get the answer. Okay, let's look at the 48. Obviously, A is 1 over 10. No problem. Okay, the period, you look at that graph. Oh, by the way, it is true that A is 1 over 10, but the graph of the cosine, this is the graph of the cosine within that period. So a minus sign in the front, a minus in front, okay? At the end, minus in front. Okay, period, you look at this, it looks like, by the look of this thing, is pi also, okay? Because there is 4 of these. You can see that 1, 2, 3, and then 4, okay? I probably didn't copy this when I scanned this thing, or maybe this was not labeled in the book, I'm not sure. Okay, so this is the period, which is 2 pi over k, and therefore k is equal to 2. Now phase shift, B, you just look at it, is right this location, and that location is negative 3 pi over 4, right? Yeah, yeah. So y is equal to negative 110. Remember I said negative in the front, and this is a cosine, and there is a 2 because there's an x, k is 2, times x minus 3 pi over 4. And if you clean this up, you get minus 1 over 10 cosine of x plus 3 pi over 4. It's always, again, good idea to check if you set x equal to minus 3 pi over 4, which is right here, right there. You're going to get cosine of 0. Cosine of 0 is, there's a 2 there. There's a 2 here. Cosine of 2. Cosine of 2 times 0, cosine of 0, and you get minus 1/10. If you set x equal to 0 here, there's something wrong. If you set x equal to 0 here, what do you get? No, that's okay. If you set x equal to 0 here, you're going to get cosine of 2 times 3 pi over 4. Cosine of 2 times 3 pi over 4 is cosine of 3 pi over 2. Cosine of 3 pi over 2 is 0, and you get this. This is always a good idea to do this last minute check. All right, let's do the other ones. There's 2 more left. Okay, we are doing 49. Obviously, A is equal to 4. Period. If you look at that, period is 1 minus 1/2. This is 3 over 2. That's a no-brainer. You can see that. The period is 3 over 2. And because this is 2 pi over k, it tells you what k is. K is equal to 4 pi over 3. Okay? And the phase shift is obviously, just look at that. The phase shift is this coordinate, minus 1/2. So, and the sign of the curve is exactly the way it's supposed to be. It's not inverted or anything like that. So y is equal to a sine 4 pi. Let me clean this up. Doesn't look good. Okay. 4 pi over 3, remember this, okay, times x minus 1/2, or that's plus 1/2. How about that? Okay. Notice that when x is minus 1/2, you get sine of 0, which is exactly this point. Sine of 0 is 0. Last problem. Last problem from this segment. Okay. So you look at this one. A is equal to 5. Obviously, it's a sine curve, and the shape is exactly like it's supposed to be, the shape of the sine, so there's no negative in the front. Okay, let me see. All right, so period. The period, you just look at this. 3/4 minus minus 1/4. Needless to say, this is a 1. You can just look at it. It's 4 1/4 segments. And therefore, this is 2 pi over k, which means k is equal to 1/2 pi, right? Just don't forget that when you write this difference, it is 2 pi over k, and that's how you find a k. And finally, the phase shift is this coordinate, which is minus 1/4. So the final answer is going to be 5 times sine of k, which is 1/2 pi, times parentheses x minus 1/4, so that's going to be x plus 1/4. And that takes care of this, and the final segment I'm going